evolution of Casper the Friendly Ghost. Casper the Friendly Ghost, or simply Casper, makes his debut appearance in the 1945 animated short The Friendly Ghost, which is the first production in the Paramount Noveltoon series, and which is based on the children's story, with the same name, as the eponymous protagonist, voiced by Walter Tetley. Here, he appears as a small, childlike ghostly figure who seems to wear a white sheet over his entire body while still having clear impressions of his face, consisting of eyebrows, eyes, nose and mouth, and also 2 arms with no visible hair or legs. Interestingly, despite him clearly being a ghost with all the associated traits, such as the ability to fly, go through solid objects, and also translucence, he can become visible, hold and interact with various real objects like a ball or real human clothes, and be among the living on their level at will. In terms of personality, he is both like a youth and also a more mature individual, being simultaneously playful, kind, curious, and friendly, as well as serious, thoughtful, and considerate. In the story, he first appears living in an abandoned mansion, reading a book, How to Win Friends, while his ghostly family indulges in scaring people at night and even tries to drag him to do the same, with him strongly refusing. Later, deciding to change his life environment, he gathers his things and ventures into the world to attempt to find friends among the living, with his first several encounters being various animals, all of whom end up getting terrified by him and running away, causing Casper to get very depressed. Until, at one bright moment, he meets 2 children who kindly invite him to play together, bringing him happiness and laughter, as well as introduce him to their mother, who initially also gets scared, but after he accidentally manages to scare off her landlord, who then tears apart her mortgage, she takes him into their family, even giving him his own schoolboy clothes and allowing him to go to school alongside her children. Next, Casper reappears in the 1948 animated short There's Good Booze Tonight in his role, voiced by the same voice actor. This short features Casper in a similar plot to the first one, only now initially showing him at the cemetery near his gravestone, reading a book called Animal Friends, and also being disinterested in allying with his ghostly family in their practice of intentionally scaring people. Then, after he decides to change the atmosphere around him, he again decides to go into the world and try to find friends among the living creatures, only for him to relive his past experience of all the animals running away in fear and leaving him alone and in despair. However, this time, he also manages to encounter a friend, a small red fox whom he calls Ferdy and considers his best friend, though, unfortunately, their happiness soon becomes jeopardized as a hunter and his animal assistants find Ferdy and attempt to kill him, with Casper successfully scaring them off. But, upon finding Ferdy, he realizes that the hunter's bullet did reach him and he died as a result, causing Casper a lot of grief and sorrow, as well as prompting him to bury him himself next to his own gravestone, until suddenly Ferdy's own ghost rises out of the ground and joins him as his best friend yet again. Following, in the 1949 animated short A Haunting We Will Go, which is the last one in the series of Casper Noveltoons, Casper reprises his role, now voiced by Cecil Roy. In the story, which follows the traditional storyline from the previous 2 shorts, Casper departs from a common place of ghost inhabitation, which is now an abandoned school building, and goes to the living ones to find a friend among them. And even though initially he is rejected by all whom he encounters, eventually he comes across a bird nest with an egg that hatches right in front of him, uncovering a little happy duckling inside, whom he really likes as well. He gives him the name Dudley and tries to teach him the life lessons for ducks, how to swim and also fly. But during their fun activities, the hunter whom he had met before now comes to take Dudley as well, prompting Casper to get to his rescue once he notices the hunter's presence, successfully scaring him away, but thinking he had managed to shoot down Dudley, with him instead happily opening his eyes and joining Casper in a flight with other ducks. Then, Casper returns in his own animated short series, Casper the Friendly Ghost, which consists of many standalone short videos featuring Casper in the main protagonistic role, voiced by several voice actors such as Alan Shea and Norma McMillan. In the series, as exemplified in the short Casper Spree Under the Sea, Casper usually goes through a very similar trajectory of events, which includes his departure from his ghostly place of living due to his unwillingness to take part in the communal scaring of people by his ghost family, and then attempting to find friends in the world of the living, with all of the animals fleeing only from the sight of him and thus causing him a lot of sadness and disappointment. Until, at one point, he meets a friendly creature, in this case a fish at the bottom of the sea, whom he quickly befriends and has lots of fun with, and here with many other sea creatures as well. However, many plots also subsequently introduce a disaster of some kind, usually in the form of a human who tries to catch or even kill the animal friends of Casper, in this version coming as two fishermen who catch the fish and other sea life in a net, thus pushing Casper into action to save them by way of scaring them away, which he successfully manages to do in most cases. While several other shorts, such as Ghost of the Town, feature updated plot lines of Casper's adventures, which, in this episode, consist of him wearing new clothing items in the course of the story, such as a small propeller hat and a black top hat, as well as him now getting physically thrown out of his ghostly home because of his dislike of scaring people. Then, after he searches for someone to befriend, he doesn't become as depressed as he used to, and instead keeps his spirit up longer, with him even managing to save a baby from a burning building, and thus becoming a celebrity of the town as a result. His success causes his ghostly family to get very jealous and prompts them to try and ruin his relationships with people by scaring them off. But instead, with Casper's help, everyone thinks they're funny instead, forcing them to flee in deep disappointment. At the end, for helping people get freed from the scary ghosts, Casper receives an official recognition and even a key to the city from the mayor. Casper gets featured in the animated anthology TV show Matty's Funday Funnies, which is a compilation of all the Casper shorts from the previous series, as well as some other productions that were broadcasted together, with the only change being a new original intro, which includes Casper alongside other characters in the show. Next, Casper appears in the TV series called The New Casper Cartoon Show, which consists of 26 completely new cartoons with Casper in the main role, voiced by Norma McMillan. Here, his appearance gets slightly modified, specifically that now he has a more embodied look, without the effect of a white sheet over him, and also a blue outline around his body. Additionally, in several episodes, he also displays his new physical abilities, such as shape-shifting his body into a completely different form, with his personality now being more that of a child, much less prone to depression and more positive and optimistic, as well as heroic in a much more prominent way. In the series, Casper now mainly plays the role of a hero, who protects and stands for oppressed and victimized individuals, whoever they might be, such as a weeping willow who's tired of being mocked by the other trees, a billionaire who was captured by a witch to steal his money, or helping a cowardly knight to get courage, thus assisting him in saving the princess from an evil dragon, which are all the elaborations on the theme of finding new friends, but now through earning their trust and gratefulness for his kind assistance. Following, Casper comes back to the screen in the animated TV show Casper and the Angels, where he's among the central characters, voiced by Julie McWhirter. In the story, set in the year 2179, Casper gets assigned by the Ghost Headquarters to be the new guardian ghost of Maxie and Minnie, who are two female space police officers, while being joined by a 1,000-year-old rambunctious ghost named Harry Scary, whose job is to scare villains and troublemakers, while at the same time, unlike most other ghosts, accepting the fact that Casper is a gentle being who doesn't like to scare people. Casper and his partners go on various fascinating and yet complicated adventures, which often require their cooperation and a great deal of skill related to police work, as depicted in the episode A Tale of Two Trashmen, in which he, Harry Scary, and the girls together investigate a burglary and manage to successfully solve the case and catch the criminals at the end. Casper reappears in the 1979 first animated crossover TV special Casper's First Christmas, which features Casper alongside several other guest stars from the production of the same filming studio, voiced by Julie McWhirter. In the story, as Casper plans to celebrate his first ever Christmas in an old and pretty run-down house, his friend Harry voices his dislike of the holiday and a belief that ghosts shouldn't be celebrating but scaring people instead, which prompts Casper to suggest to him that they find some house where they can fulfill his wish. Meanwhile, their house gets visited by a group of friends who wanted to find a place to celebrate, after which they clean and decorate it right before Casper and Harry's return. However, despite everyone else getting excited to be prepared to celebrate Christmas together, with Casper gladly joining the group, Harry gets very annoyed and angry, deciding to begin scaring them all himself and ruin all their beautiful decorations, leading to them fleeing out of the house alongside Casper. At the end, as everyone thinks that there's no more hope of celebrating this year, Harry accidentally discovers Casper's letter to Santa, which says that he wishes for Santa to save Harry's house, bringing Harry to the realization of what he had done while Casper and others were just trying to spend good time together with him, after which he changes his mind and restores all that he had ruined, allowing Casper and others to return and welcome Santa into their home, who happily gives everyone their presents and also transforms the house into a new and gorgeous building, bringing everyone much excitement and holiday spirit. Then, Casper comes back in the 1979 second animated special, Casper's Halloween Special, voiced again by Julie McWhirter. In the story, as Casper thinks about joining the local children to celebrate Halloween, his friend Harry decides to unite with his scary-looking pals and go scare everyone around and thus ruin their good time. While Casper goes trick-or-treating dressed in a costume of a real boy, Harry and his allies bother him and scare others around him along the way, and even though he managed to find a group of orphan children who liked him despite him being a ghost, the holiday got ruined for them because of the mean-spirited Harry and his friends, causing Casper a lot of sadness and pain. However, after the children tell Harry what his actions have achieved, he gets embarrassed and ashamed, which prompts his later cooperation with all the people in the town to restore the fun atmosphere of celebration and invite Casper to join, which he happily does, in a new costume and together with everybody. Next, in the 1993 live-action movie A Perfect World, Casper makes a cameo in the form of a costume which one of the main characters wears, specifically a small boy named Philip, who gets it after a criminal on the run, Robert Haynes, had kidnapped him as a hostage and later learned more things about him, including that he never celebrated either Christmas or Halloween in his life, prompting Robert to help him experience the fun of such activities, stemming from his personal unhappy childhood and a desire to help someone not to repeat the same story. Casper also makes an appearance in the 1995 eponymous live/CGI animated movie, which becomes the first ever feature film to have a fully CGI character in the lead role, voiced by Malachi Pearson and portrayed by Devon Sawa in human form. Here, he appears to be very similar to his cartoon version, though now he doesn't have recognizable legs and instead has a pointy tail-like end, while his whole body is almost completely transparent, as opposed to being clearly visible, as in his previous incarnations. In the story, his name gets revealed as Casper McFadden, and in contrast to the portrayal of his story before, his past life and cause of death also get illuminated, specifically that before his demise he was a small 12-year-old boy living with his father, with no mention of his mother, but after he played outside for a whole day in the winter, he caught a severe cold and subsequently developed fatal pneumonia, becoming a ghost after his passing to keep his father company. In the present, he lives in a very old whipstaff manor, located in Friendship, Maine, together with his 3 mean-spirited ghostly uncles, the Ghostly Trio, who enjoy haunting people where he mostly spends his time. Meanwhile, the ruthless Kerrigan Crittenden, the main villain, learns that her recently deceased wealthy father has left to her only a ruined whipstaff manor, but which turns out to contain a certain treasure, sparking her interest in finding something valuable for herself. However, once she comes into the manor, Casper and his uncles reveal themselves, causing her to run away in fear and prompting her many future futile attempts to get rid of them through professional means, until, with Casper's involvement, she invites Dr. James Harvey, who works as an afterlife therapist and helps ghosts finish their unfinished business so they can cross over into the next world, and who also has a daughter, Kat, on whom Casper developed a crush. In the course of the story, Casper gets acquainted with the two and helps them not to fear him, eventually even becoming friends despite his uncle's poor treatment of them. And while working together with Kat, he manages to stop Kerrigan, who also became a ghost, in order to use Casper's father's invention, a machine that can bring ghosts back to life, ending in him even transforming into his former human self for several hours, allowing him to spend time with Kat in a much closer way, which brings excitement and happiness to them all. Following, Casper reappears in the animated TV series The Spooktacular New Adventures of Casper, which serves as a spin-off and a sequel to the 1995 movie, in his main role, voiced by Malachi Pearson. In the show, his appearance becomes a combination of both his cartoon version and the movie version, possessing the same form and body shape as in the movie, but now also being much less transparent, making him clearly visible, with his personality also getting modified. Specifically that now he's a lot more sarcastic, temperamental, and devious, prone to fits of envy and jealousy, as opposed to his previous depictions in which he innocently and simply wanted to be friends with everybody, but unintentionally scared them off with his ghostly appearance, which even gets noted in the episode Casper vs. the Ultimate Fanboy, where the titular fanboy comes to the conclusion that Casper was nicer in the old cartoons, as well as exemplified by his relationship with Kat, which is now significantly snarky. In the story, he mainly continues his adventures with Kat, her father, and also his ghostly family, in addition to many other newly introduced ghosts, creating a seeming world of ghosts right among the living on Earth, with Casper now also at times enjoying and taking part in scaring others, as shown in the very first episode, Spooking Bee, where he repeats a running joke in the series that consists of him reverting back to his former cartoon version, which scares everyone around, including Kat, who's usually not bothered by ghosts at all, having grown used to them a long time ago, and even his mean uncles. Then, Casper gets featured in the 1997 live/animated first prequel movie, Casper: A Spirited Beginning, which focuses on additional details surrounding Casper's origins, though with some inconsistencies in the timeline, making it more of an adaptation, voiced by Jeremy Foley. Here, he reappears in his CGI animated form, which now more reflects his 1995 version in that his body is almost completely transparent from the shoulders down. In the story, although his prehistory and the cause of death don't get explored, the movie follows his journey from the point of his demise, which is implied to have happened a bit prior to the events of the story, covering his own discoveries and learning moments in his new life as a ghost, such as his first realization that he's in fact a ghost at the beginning, when he scares a large group of people in a local town, and also his encounter with the ghostly trio, whom he meets with the help of his only human friend, a boy fascinated with the paranormal, Chris Carson, who so far is the only one who isn't afraid of the ghosts, and also who, due to his less-than-ideal relationship with his father as well as his peers, more than happy to find friends among ghosts. In the course of the story, Casper gets taught by the trio as well as Chris how to live like a ghost, learning several cool techniques, such as making himself invisible and going through solid objects, which infuriates the evil and tyrannical king of ghosts, Kibosh, who wants to teach and control the ghosts himself, and prompts him to search for them all to capture them. At the end, with all of Casper's newly learned skills, he decides to use them to help people, such as scaring off a robber of a store, as well as saving Chris himself, after his father hired a professional bomber to destroy Casper and the trio's ancient Applegate mansion while Chris was accidentally inside by swallowing the bomb, which explodes in his stomach, saving both the mansion and the people, which impresses Kibosh to the point of him leaving them alone in peace, allowing Casper to continue his adventures with his new human and ghost families, ending in him coming up with his nickname, Casper the Friendly Ghost. In the 1998 live/animated movie, Casper Meets Wendy, which is a standalone sequel to the previous movie, and the second spin-off/prequel to the 1995 movie, Casper reappears, voiced by Jeremy Foley. The story follows Casper as he meets and befriends an unexpected individual, a good little witch named Wendy, because it is presumed that ghosts and witches are supposed to be enemies and never friends, which only strains their relationship, since both Casper and Wendy have their overprotective and traditionally minded guardians, the ghostly trio of uncles on one side and the 3 aunt witches on the other. Driven to continue their friendship no matter what, they try to devise a plan to meet together at a party, while their guardians transform themselves and thus can connect with each other without knowing their true identities, which initially seems to work, until they accidentally reveal themselves and begin battling against one another, ruining everything. Despite this, once a powerful and evil warlock, Desmond Spellman, finds out that Wendy was prophesied to surpass him in power, and decides to use Mystic Abyss, a dimensional rift that can destroy anyone, to dispose of her, almost succeeding in the process. The mean guardians of the two decide to put aside their disagreements and prejudices and work together to save the children and defeat Desmond. At the end, as Casper, his uncles, Wendy, and her aunts all bid each other warm goodbye, Wendy assures Casper they will see each other again very soon and gives him her goodbye kiss, causing him to blush. Next, Casper can be seen in the 2000 CGI animated movie Casper's Haunted Christmas, which is the second Christmas-themed production in the franchise, in the leading role voiced by Brendan Ryan Barrett. In the story, just before Christmas time, Casper and the trio get confronted by Kibosh, who warns them that Casper's scare requirements haven't been fulfilled in a long time, even though many have gotten scared after encountering him in the past. Since it was incidental, it didn't count, because the minimal obligation of all ghosts is to intentionally scare at least one person a year, after which Kibosh threatens them that if Casper doesn't succeed in doing at least that, they together will be sent to a void called the Dark, which is another dimension with no light, time, or space. But soon after relocating to a new town for completing the task, everyone quickly realizes that Casper's too kind and good to actually do this, with him even instead befriending the daughter of a local family, Holly Jollimore, prompting the trio to call upon Casper's similar-looking cousin, Spooky, to disguise himself as Casper and finish his obligation in order to try and fool Kibosh, which ends up not working. After learning about Casper and Spooky's failures, the trio loses all hope and instead plots to ruin the Christmas for everyone in town before their imprisonment, which in turn gives Casper and Spooky the impetus to come up with a plan of action to stop the three uncles, and also finish his requirement on time, which consists of them using a giant figure of Santa disguised as Kibosh himself, which they intend to use for scaring the trio, based on their visceral fear of him. At the end, Casper and Spooky's plan succeeds in scaring the three elder ghosts right before Christmas Day, after which Kibosh nullifies his threat and leaves them in peace, allowing them to stay with the Jollimore family and celebrate Christmas together. Casper makes a cameo in the animated TV show Family Guy in the episode Stewie Be Good, as a boy who accidentally dies after Stewie Griffin throws him a ball on the road, turning him into a ghost. Following, Casper is featured in the 2006 animated TV movie Casper's Scare School, which is inspired by his character from the comics, now voiced by Devin Werkheiser. Here he reappears in his CGI incarnation, but now has a much more opaque body, purple eyes, and white eyebrows, as well as now can easily switch between walking on legs or flying with a usual tail-like end. In the story, Casper gets sent to the scare school by Kibosh for being too friendly with a boy named Jimmy Bradley and failing to scare enough humans in order to prevent him from being banished into the Valley of the Shadows as a punishment for those who refuse to scare people. There, he meets the head of the school, the two-headed headmaster Alder and Dash, as well as befriends several individuals in his class, a mummy boy Ra and a zombie girl Mantha, with whom he learns the lessons in being scary. However, because of his strong resistance and dislike of such activity, he gets detention multiple times from the teachers and eventually decides to go to the Valley of the Shadows by himself, not willing to participate in such learning any longer, which turns out to be a quite lovely green place where he even meets his great-aunt Spitzy, who's happy to meet him too, as well as the two-headed aunt and uncle of the school's headmasters. Meanwhile, in Casper's absence, Alder and Dash are working on a potion that can turn anyone into stone, in order to give in to Kibosh, as well as the ghostly trio, to take over the underworld and Deedstown as a result. Fortunately, once Casper's classmates and friends learn about their nefarious plan, they head to the Valley of Shadows to inform Casper and together return back to stop them, which they all manage to do, with the help from the headmaster's aunt and uncle, who convince them to stop and turn everyone back to normal. At the end, this experience prompts Kibosh to change his mind and allow Casper and everyone else to be friends with humans and live peacefully without punishment. Then, Casper can be seen in the stop-motion animated sketch series Robot Chicken, making multiple cameos. First in the episode Book of Corrine, in which a parody of Casper shows him being very mean to humans and playing pranks on them. Then in Tell My Mom, after several children express their wish to play with Casper forever, he offers them poison, and finally in big trouble in Little Clerks 2. After Casper comes to play with children on the street, his crying mother appears and cries out loud about why he played near a pool, implying that this version died of drowning rather than a disease. Next, Casper reappears in the animated TV show Casper's Scare School, which is based on the previous 2006 eponymous movie, though it doesn't follow its storyline, as the main protagonist, voiced by Robbie Sublett and Matthew Gaze in 2 different seasons. The story follows Casper's journey after he got into the scare school, but before he changed Kibosh's mind about the requirement for everyone to scare people, thus having to study further and to graduate or otherwise be banished to the Valley of the Shadows forever. So in the course of the series, he goes on many adventures along with his friends, which mostly end up not being connected to their scaring education, but more to personal matters and interpersonal issues, such as in the episode Bully for You, in which Casper forms a secret squad of his friends in order to stop bullying at the school, or in Crypt Critters, where he has to search for a cure for Mantha's lice and stop her itchiness. Although on occasion he still does participate in the scaring education and even in scaring itself, as shown in the episode Accidental Hero, where the ghostly trio give him scaring tips that end up working so well that not only does everyone around get scared, but he himself also starts to fear himself. Casper also makes an appearance in the animated TV show Harvey Girls Forever, in the episode Scare Bud, as a guest character, voiced by Bobby Moynihan. In the episode, he encounters the main protagonists, the Harvey Girls, and tells them about his problem with not being able to scare anyone, which is required for him in order to continue living on Harvey Boulevard with other traditionally scary beings, prompting the girls to give him lessons in how to scare successfully, which he eventually manages to do, allowing him to return back home. Finally, Casper returns in the 2025 animated movie Casper, which is a 4K Ultra HD remaster of the original 1995 movie with the same name, both in the form of theatrical and physical release, for the occasion of its 30th anniversary.